3 years ago, I shot, built, and uploaded this video. And in that video, I described the initial base of our build as a dad bike. There's one of these in every single dad shed of all time. If you're looking for a decent candidate to do what I'm about to do to this bike, literally just go find any dad and ask them what their bike is and if they want to get rid of it. Yeah, that's right. A dad bike. Those of us who are even just remotely familiar with internet culture immediately got it. Those a little less familiar with internet culture, well, they showed up in the comments a little more offended. Now, because it's never fun to be out of the loop, and I just want to help out those who are so offended, let's definitively define the dad bike. It is important to note that it's not the type of bike that can dictate whether or not one becomes a dad bike. Any bike presented hereforth could run the risk of becoming a dad bike. That is to say that the dad bike, it's entirely situational, not necessarily physical. Here's what I mean. I love charts, so let's make one. Let's say a bike is purchased new here, and this line here represents the amount of interest in that new bicycle as time goes on. Any bike for this example is bought new, and interest is probably immediately up here. That makes sense. Of course, there's two directions that can go. We can go up, we can go down, but for this example, for the dad bike example, we're gonna kind of split the difference. We're gonna say for a few years, interest is there for a while. We're gonna go across. Maybe it goes up a little bit because that's just accidentally how I drew it. Now, other life events might start piling up. They might be getting in the way. Perhaps career changes, perhaps other sports, perhaps whatever. A multitude of different things can affect the amount of interest in that new bike in one direction or the other. In this example, it's gonna make the interest go down. That's a fairly steep decline, but it works for this example. So interest over time has declined, possibly to a point that here, that bike gets put into some sort of storage, out of the way. It's been in the way, you're moving it around, so you're like, oh man, this thing just needs to be hung up like on the wall. Boom, a bunch of stuff gets put in its way and interest completely plummets. Perhaps you've gotten a new bike that is cooler and more fun than the first bike that you bought. So you're like, well, get this one out of the way. I've got this other one that I'm interested. Or life in general is just sort of taking away some of the time and effort that you can put in to riding the bike that you bought, and it gets pushed to the wayside and it starts to collect dust. That, my friends, is the initiation of a dad bike. So of course, no machine is safe from this possibility, but we do see it happen more frequently with particular types of bikes over other ones. And that particular type of bike is generally some sort of mid-cost, lower cost hybrid. And that's why in that video, I said this is kind of the quintessential dad bike. Purchasing the lesser of the options is a hedge against this bet. Everybody knows this is a possibility. Okay, now I can hear the comments like, well, why does it have to be called a dad bike? Why can't it just be called like a neglected, forgotten bike that doesn't get ridden anymore? And I have a story for you. This is a picture of my dad and his friend about to embark on a ride from New Brunswick to PEI in 1988. Do you see that red bike he's standing beside? I remember that bike from my childhood. That bike got moved around in the garage to a shed, to another spot, and it was around fairly unridden until probably I was 10 or 11 years old. In that time, my dad had gotten a new bike that he liked better and he rode around a lot more, and that one, and I can't remember exactly how, that bike was either given away or sold for a couple dollars at a yard sale. Exactly how I described how dad bikes work in the dirt cheap gravel bike build video. Not convinced? Okay. That bike that replaced the red one from that photo was a Rally. I have no pictures of it. I very vividly remember it because I used to ride it around town. That Rally, not too dissimilar to our favorite bike here on the channel, the Rockhopper. As a matter of fact, I really, really wish I had that Rally so that I could do something like this with it. Got neglected, pushed to the side, developed some uninterest, was in the way, and was eventually given away to family friends of ours. That is 2 very real examples of the dad bike progress, literally from my own dad. So, because growing up, I saw this process happen with my dad bike. So, I know what you're thinking based on the current explanations and the dirt cheap gravel bike build video. Does it need to be a low cost bike that's like undesirable? No. This thing in its original build was posted up on Marketplace for a really good price because it had gone through the dad bike process. Purchased new, ridden well, and enjoyed for a long time until it was either replaced or ignored because of other life commitments. It was grabbed up by someone else on advice. I reached out to Phil, who is a dad, but definitely doesn't have dad bikes, hoping that he had something like this, to which he did, and I purchased it, turning it into this. Unfortunately, as the popularity of doing stuff like this to 90s mountain bikes arises, bikes that have been hanging and getting dusty, the prices of them are starting to go up. Do you have to be a dad for a bike to become a dad bike? No. We've got a shed. We've got a bunch of stuff in said shed. And underneath all of said stuff is my friend Lindsay's Specialized Cirrus that has been here since we swapped all of the parts off of it to the newer Specialized Cirrus frame that she's riding currently. It is very dangerously becoming a dad bike. It literally has all of the quintessential dad bike features. A rack, lights, it's a hybrid, it's a triple, it's got V-brakes. Jeff, Lindsay, I'm not poking fun. I'm not trying to say you need to come get your bike. It's just a really good example. Now that we've literally taken all of the fun out of this by explaining it in such depth, are you still offended? If you are, I'm sure you'll leave a comment. Or you didn't get this far in the video at all and you're just like really, really mad for some reason. If you're wondering where the original dad bike dirt cheap gravel bike build went, we built that bike up as a super capable gravel bike. My friend Nick in Ontario owns it now. This is what it looks like. So the moral of the story here is, any bike you can find that's been neglected that you can get for very, very minimal amounts of money can be made into something sick if you want to put the effort in. That's it.